Welcome friends to GSTIdea.com video series. We started GSTIdea.com last year by capturing news about GST and putting that on the website. It is basically a portal which gathers news on GST and bring that to the viewers. With this video series, we would be taking interviews of various CEOs, chairmen of the companies and try to understand how they are preparing for upcoming GST. If you ask me personally when GST is going to be implemented, it's very difficult to say as of date, because politically we are not too sure. At one hand, what we can see that BJP government is trying to implement this GST anyhow from 1/4/2016, whereas the opposition are trying to create a number of hindrances. At one end, we have seen that in monsoon session, the bill has not been passed because of the opposition. Now what we are hearing that the BJP is trying to come out with a special session in the month of September to pass the GST bill. In my view, even if from 1/4/2016, if bill is being passed, then central probably may come out with CGST, and that would really make the things difficult. Technically speaking, the GST should be designed in a manner that nothing is excluded. But looking into the current scenario, whereby they have excluded petroleum, alcohol, electricity, the design itself looks a bit difficult. I mean, Congress or the industry, whosoever are opposing this, are to the certain extent correct in opposing the design of the GST. Because if these sectors are excluded, we would be replacing the current structure with the GST, which is not fruitful for the industry. There are a lot of things business house needs to consider before a GST is being implemented. I mean, till we have a legislation in place, still there are certain things which one can work on. Once the GST is in place, pricing will play an important role. Today, under the current scenario, there are a lot of credits across the board, whether under state or central, which are not allowed. I mean, that hits to your price. So once we go into the GST scenario, that would be allowed across the board, and one needs to relook into the pricing part. Also, considering the competitor, the pricing aspect becomes very important. The second important aspect is the supply chain. Today, every business who are doing business across the country, in order to save taxes, have opened a sales office or warehouses in the different states. With the GST in place, with the one uniform rate across the state, one really need to see the supply chain aspect as well. One would like to be very closer to the consumer rather than looking supply chain from a tax perspective. Another important aspect is inventory management. How much inventory one needs to take up considering closeness to the consumer is again something needs to be worked on. IT and accounting would play a very important role, because capturing of capturing of credit and mapping of that would be very crucial. So IT and accounting with capturing of credit and mapping would play an important role for any business. So one has to look into that aspect as well. If you ask me what a business should do as on date, I would say there are 4 steps. Step number 1, you identify the issues what probably you may have in the GST scenario. For example, like what will happen to area-based exemption? What will happen if you are a industry like a fertilizer industry where it is a complete exemption? What would happen to that? So identify your issue, that is the step number one. Step number two is to represent that issue to the government, whether at a state level or at the central level, or maybe at an industrial forum like CII, ASSOCHAM, and so on and so forth. Step number three is to identify what is the impact of the GST in your business, considering whatever the laws we have. And for that, probably we will be also coming out very soon with a tool whereby you can put your figures in our app, and you will be able to understand what is the net tax cost which is right now you are incurring under your business, and what would be its impact in under the GST scenario. And the fourth and most important step is to wait for the legislation to come. Unless you have a legislation in place, probably much planning cannot be done. I would request all my professional colleagues, friends to contribute their technical paper on GST, working on any particular specific sector, and we would publish that on our website with your profile. We hope that GST comes at the earliest, and which would be really a game changer for India. Jai Hind.